Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. When I had a Peter Chan hack at my, or Peter Chan style trim, we'll call it, on my hornbeam, in one of the comments it said that I ought to do a similar thing to my other trees if I'm worried about not being able to see the trunks and sort of losing their bonsai look. And this one is in that state now. It's become a bush, and in here is a good bonsai. Now the thing is, it's very difficult. I've got no turntable that can cater for this. It's too heavy, so it's in a fixed position. But my worry is if I trim this now, this is going to look good in about a month's time when the autumn colours come. And the more leaves there are, probably the better it's going to look. And if I trim it now, am I losing some of that colour? So it's a sort of decision. So the decision I've come to is I'm not going to take any of the outside top growth off. I'm going to go underneath the pads and trim. Hopefully that will re-emphasise the layers without taking this growth off, which is where the autumn colour is going to be. I mean, this is in almost full shade at the moment. It gets virtually no sun. It gets some glimpses of the sun early morning through the hedgerow and stuff, and it also gets some evening sun just about, so it gets very little sun at the moment, and at the moment we're in a heat wave, so it's not getting any. I'm not changing that. But once this heat wave goes and the weather breaks and it gets back to some sort of normality, I will try and get this out in some sunshine, which will enhance the autumn colours. Anyway, so my idea, which is going to make a mess all over the place because I can't trim into the tray because the tray's upside down holding it up in the air. But this is all I was planning on doing, was just find the pads, basically. You know, and by trimming these, the lower down elements of these, this is all going to get cut off at some point anyway. You know, come my early spring trim, you know, one of the concepts is anything dangling down comes off. So I'm not taking off anything that ought to be kept, really. This is all due to come off anyway. It's not very easy when you can't see what you're doing. So, like I say, it's if I take some long extensions off, I don't want to take too many off because, as I said, that's where the colour's going to be. You know, like these bits sticking up here. If I take that off, you know, that's 4 or 5 leaves that are going to be a good colour. However, there are a few burnt ones we can get off because they spoil the look. So that's my layer there. And then the idea then is to go up to the next layer and cut what's hanging down off to try and open it and show the bonsai again. The bonsai in the bush. It's in there somewhere. It's definitely in there somewhere. I don't want to take too many top leaves off. I just want to take lower ones off if I can get away with it. It might not work. But quite a bit of the structure is in this centre section. I don't know why that's been left on there. I don't like that at all. And to be able to get at that, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it, but I can try. So we'll come in underneath the pads and take what in my spring trim would be called dangling down bits, which are due to come off anyway. There's a few shoots coming out of the trunk in places. That's nice to have on a maple. I'll get a new branch here and there. Well, so you can just about see in there now. But only just, you know, it's, the trouble is that, you know, when it gets dense like this, you're shutting the light out from in under here, so you start getting dieback. I won't be able to do anything with the apex without losing outside leaves, so I'm not even going to try. All I'm going to do is just come round here and see if I can. So there's a few discoloured leaves. Any leaf that doesn't look good is coming off. Because that wouldn't make probably for good autumn colour anyway. And I'm not going to be able to do the whole tree because I can't turn it. But we can now see the trunk, and we can see some of the structure, although not much. Can I risk a few more leaves? See, these are top leaves I'm taking off there, which I wanted to try and avoid. Now this branch, this is my lower branch, my first branch, and I've always let it extend, and then in the spring I take it back. But what it's doing here is coming back round on itself, and it's doing it a bit too well at the moment, so I want to take it, this is going to lose me some autumn colour, but as I said, this is coming back round a bit too well this year. And again, we'll take some of this lower stuff off, the dangly down bits. It's not going to help much because there's nothing to see through there, quite honestly. You know, that's the lowest pad, so there isn't anything underneath there to see apart from the pot. Am I going to get in the way if I come around here? I probably am. Again, if I take these leaves off, this is going to be autumn colour here. I'm not going to do. Basically, I'm going to leave it at that. I know that was only a light trim, but nonetheless it's achieved some of what I wanted, which was trying to recover some of the bonsai in the bush. Not a detailed job. I mean, this and this are two entirely separate pads. They've lost their gap. Perhaps I could regain that. Just a few branches coming off there would just show that gap again, because these are two separate pads here. But as I said, I'm taking too much off, I'm going to lose autumn colour, or potential autumn colour. Yeah, it's the same here. I mean, there's a pad here that should have separation from this one. Now, unfortunately, it's not too much hanging down stuff that's between those pads, it's sticking up stuff. I suppose you could say that what's inside the tree. I'm not going to regain anything by doing this up here. So, as I said, there's a pad here, another one here, and in the spring they're all very clearly defined. You know, as the leaves first come out. I don't want to go too mad moving this around, but because it's not very well supported. Underneath my tray, which is angled, you know, when it's up the other way, it's got a sloping front. So to get this tree up in the air, that's got a flower pot underneath it holding it up, which is not that brilliant, not that secure. And again, there's a back pad here that ought to be separate. It's a huge big long extension there, we'll have that off. And again, that should be separated here, which would be, again, that's dangly stuff to come off. Sort of like that. That gives it a little bit more definition, not a lot. But it's a bit better than it was. You can see through the gap now, apart from that one leaf sticking out. So, it's just a very light trim has brought back a little bit of shape. Not a lot, and I can't go mad. And we'll look forward to this being a bit out of shape for a reason, and that reason will be the autumn colour. And obviously we'll revisit it when I was going to say when I put it outside, when I put it in its place where it can spend the autumn to get some good sunshine on it, and hopefully we'll get a nice show of colour. The shojos have beautiful spring colour, you know, vibrant red, all the new foliage, and then as it progresses into the year it turns green basically, and then in the autumn you get the autumn colours, so you get two good lots of colour on these. They're well worth having. And this time in the early spring I'm going to do my shape trim, you know, which is sticking out bits, dangly bits, long extensions, long internodes, crossing branches, all that stuff comes off, leaving like a skeleton. That'll be done before bud break, and then this spring I'm going to try a technique that's fiddly but might be worth doing, and that is that on every shoot there is a terminal bud behind which are two other buds. That's the shape of the ends of the twigs, and literally just as that end bud starts to push out, you take it off. So before the leaves have even opened, you take it off, and it forces the growth into the two buds behind and takes the energy out. So there's less energy for those two buds, so they grow smaller leaves, and the whole tree gets a better ramification as a consequence. You remove those long extensions before they start and push the energy into the side buds basically, and then you get much smaller leaves for the whole tree. Allegedly. I haven't tried it before, but it might be worth having a go. So that's that, and I'm going to leave it at that now. As I said, I don't want to remove too much of what will be the autumn colour. And then come the spring we'll have another good look at this, and as I said, as far as branches are concerned, in the winter this branch looks wrong. It looks wrong because it's got a really long bit right out to there with no leaves on it. And then there's this, which is twigs. And in the winter that doesn't look quite so good. But boy does it come into its own, you know, in the summer, because it gives a lovely layer to the lower part of the tree. Yeah, and it complements the pads going up that side basically. And it's a bit of a sideways tree. It does tend to grow out more than it grows up. You know, don't get too many huge extensions on the apex of this. There isn't a single apex on this. There is in fact 3. You could even say 4. It's not a single branch. It basically splits here and then heads off in various branches. Big one here that then splits, one there, and the one out the back rises up slightly as well. So it hasn't got a single apex, it's got a set of apexes, and I want it like that. But it does look better when branches that start on that pad don't go right through there and come out here, which is easier to sort out in the winter. So anyway, that's my oldest tree by far, because it was quite an old tree when I got it. It has to be repotted come the springtime. It's been in that pot far too long already, and I've said that for the last 2 years. That's how overdue it is. Chances are it's totally root bound, and in addition to that, totally compacted. So it's going to have lost its air, it's going to have lost its oxygen around the roots and everything. You know, which inhibits its growth to a degree, although, you know, it's put on good growth this year, so I'm happy with it. Right, so, and that lives on the bench outside. Until I get my bonsai staging built, I've got, you might be able to see through the gap there, there's some timber leaning up against there. There's some large 4x4 posts, and they're prepared timber, and they've been treated, so they'll last well. And basically I've only got 3 of those, so the largest one is going to get cut in half, and then the other 2 will be reduced by that amount, so that I've got 4 posts the same height, and that will be 2 each end, with some bars effectively to hold them in place, and then I'm going to get some 6x2 2 pieces to sit on the bars on those legs. And that should be something like 8, maybe 9 foot long on 4 good support posts. The idea is to use a water-based stain that soaks in, and I'll probably do it black because I don't want the staging upstaging the trees sat on the top. So that's probably going to go along here to replace all sorts of rubbish and junk and a temporary bench that I've got out there. And then in addition to that, there's a huge big piece of timber out there that's about 9 inches by 3 inches, something like that. It's a very chunky piece of timber like that. And what I'm going to do with that is cut it in half to make 2 legs. And then again, put 2 pieces of 6x2 on and actually make a lower, because that'll only give me probably about 20 inches ground clearance basically, so it'll be a lower bench. and I'll be able to put that like perhaps round here, something like that. And then basically we'll have some sun and some shade, so the trees won't be in the sun all day. My Scots pine's been out in the garden, out there proper, until we started that heat wave, and I can't be doing with watering a tree 3 times a day to stop it dying, so I had to bring it out of the sun so that I could keep it alive. Now that's not ideal, a pine needs its sunshine, but for the few months. Yes, what can we do for you? Hey, you're going to come and say hello to people? Hey, who's that then? Who's that then? He wants to go out. This is Elvis, and no, I didn't name him. Originally he was my daughter's cat till he came to stay with me must be about 15 years ago now. We're an old fella, aren't we? We're 18 years old. So, but anyway. He wants to go out, I expect. Are you going to go out? No, he's going to go back in again. I think he's going a bit too lally like me, and he starts to do something and then gets sidetracked and forgets what he was originally going to do. Oh, I don't ever do that. No, I never do that. Anyway, quick trim on that, and just a reminder that I've got it. As I said, it's going to have to be trimmed more frequently and looked after better next year, to just appreciate what goes on behind these leaves, because without what's going on inside there, it is just a bush. So anyway, see you next time. Nice to chat with you again. Bye for now.